National News Desk, locally covered, nationally connected. Breaking news, political activist Charlie Kirk has been shot and killed while at an event in Utah. This is the National News Desk, America's News Now. I'm Taylor Murray. We do want to warn you, the video you are about to see is difficult to watch. It shows the moments leading up to the assassination. During a speaking event this afternoon at Utah Valley University, it's not clear if authorities are still searching the campus for the suspect. The campus does remain closed for the rest.
You want me to read
the National News Desk? Atra El-Nashar is joining us now. Atra, these reactions are pouring.
Not just here in Washington, but in several states, too, across the country. And, you know, the violence that we saw occur on this university campus in Utah is just sending shockwaves throughout Washington. At certain points, we saw lawmakers who were in committee reacting in real time to this news. And, of course, Charlie Kirk was such a prominent political figure for so long. Many of these lawmakers knew him firsthand, had his phone number in their cell phones. And President Trump, who's credited Kirk's Turning Point USA for mobilizing enough young voters to get him elected, was the one who announced his death on Truth Social. The violence on a university campus in Utah sending shockwaves through Washington. President Trump, who's credited Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA for mobilizing enough young voters to get him elected, announcing his death on Truth Social. The great and even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead. No one understood or had the heart of the youth in the United States of America better than Charlie. He was loved and admired by all, especially me, and now he is no longer with us. Melania and my sympathies go out to his beautiful wife, Erica, and family. Charlie, we love you. The president ordering flags be flown at half staff until sunset on Sunday. Vice President Vance says, eternal rest grant unto him, O Lord. Republican commentator Scott Jennings visibly emotional when the news broke.
Charlie Kirk was a destination for a lot of young conservatives, and we're going to miss him.
Utah Republican Senator Mike Lee saying this murder was a cowardly act of violence, an attack on champions of freedom like Charlie, the students who gathered for civil debate, and all Americans who peacefully strive to save our nation. California Governor Gavin Newsom, one of the most high-profile Democrats in the country, who earlier this year hosted Kirk on his podcast, says the attack on Charlie Kirk is disgusting, vile, and reprehensible. In the United States of America, we must reject political violence in every form. Former Democratic Congresswoman Gabby Giffords, who was shot in 2011, says democratic societies will always have political disagreements, but we must never allow America to become a country that confronts those disagreements with violence. Now, FBI Director Kash Patel says that agents were sent to the scene right away and that the Bureau will support the ongoing response and investigation. Back to you.
Yeah, just shocking and devastating news tonight. Atra El-Nashar, thank you. Also breaking right now, at least 4 students have been sent to the hospital, 3 of whom are in critical condition after a shooting, this one at Evergreen High School about 30 miles west of Denver, Colorado. Now, the 4th student is in an unknown condition. Authorities have confirmed one of the minors in critical is the suspected shooter. And of course, stay with us as we continue to track developments on both of these breaking stories throughout the night. We'll have coverage for you both on air and online at thenationaldesk.com. President Donald Trump is calling for the death penalty for DeCarlos Brown Jr., the man accused of stabbing the 23-year-old Ukrainian national Irina Zarutska on a train in Charlotte, North Carolina. Brown is charged with murder and committing an act causing death on a mass transportation system. In federal court, that does make him eligible for capital punishment. Now, he has a long criminal history and a history of psychiatric crises, including being diagnosed with schizophrenia. He's also charged with the murder charge on the state level. A manhunt is underway in New York City following the horrific deaths of an elderly couple in their home. Listen to this. The suspect, Jamel McGriff, was out on parole for first-degree robbery. McGriff allegedly broke into that couple's home in Queens on Monday, killing them and setting the house on fire.
Witnesses state that the suspect claimed that he needed assistance. that his phone battery was dead, and he was asking if he could enter the house to charge his phone.
Police say the husband was found tied to a pole in the basement with stab wounds. The wife was found on the first floor with severe burns. And there's no known connection between the victims or McGriff.
Pursuant to search warrants issued by federal courts, U.S. Marshals began seizing hundreds of thousands of units of illicit vaping products at locations across the United States, including here at Midwest Goods in this suburb of Chicago.
$86.5 million worth of illegal cigarettes off the streets as Customs and Border Protection announced their largest seizure of its kind today. Almost all of those shipments seized came from China. The FDA and CBP say the products contain misleading descriptions and incorrect values of ingredients in an effort to avoid a review of important safety concerns. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's an unidentified aerial phenomena. Look at this stunning new video shown to Congress of what appears to be a mysterious orb bouncing off a Hellfire missile. It's further fueling claims from whistleblowers, including lawmakers and witnesses, that the government is holding back information on UAPs, or what many of us call UFOs. Now, 2 Air Force veterans, a Navy senior chief petty officer as well, all testified that no known U.S. technology could withstand a Hellfire strike, remain intact, and keep on moving. So they're demanding greater transparency on UAPs as the origins of the orb remain unknown. Is there life beyond Earth? Answering the age-old question is the sole mission of NASA's Mars rover, Perseverance. And now rocks uncovered by Perseverance may hold potential signs of ancient microscopic life. And although scientists say an in-depth analysis of the samples back on Earth is needed before reaching any conclusion, they call the discovery exciting. But just how soon the retrieval of those samples could happen is kind of complicated, and it's up in the air. NASA projects it could be 2040 before an astronaut or robotic spacecraft is even sent to Mars to collect those samples because of the cost, which is upwards of $10 billion. Here's a live look at the Missouri Capitol in Jefferson City, where the state Senate is set to debate and soon vote on a new congressional map passed out of the State House last night. Now, the redistricting plan could reduce favorable Democratically held congressional seats to 1. The vote is expected by this Friday. And President Trump posted on Truth Social last night, writing in part, quote, "The Missouri Senate must pass this map now, as is, to deliver a gigantic victory for Republicans in the Show Me state and across the country. I will be watching closely," he says. Around half of Americans do not believe the government's recommendation that fewer Americans get COVID shots is based on science. That's according to a new poll that Reuters took part in. It shows 24% of adults think the recommendation is science-based, 48% think it isn't, and 28% don't know. The FDA approved the latest COVID vaccines only for certain groups, and the commissioner, Dr. Marty Makary, spoke on the topic today.
We are getting the data that was never made available before, including adverse event data. That is, young people who have died from the COVID vaccine. And we're going to make that available to the medical community in full transparency, because this is the question that Americans are asking. Remember, 85% of healthcare workers said no to the COVID booster last fall. What does that tell you?
And new members of the CDC Vaccine Advisory Committee meet a week from tomorrow. They could vote on guidance for certain childhood vaccines. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is calling for more rigorous investigations into vaccine injuries in the new Make America Healthy Again report released yesterday.
So that vaccine injuries will be reported. They will be studied. And that individuals who suffer them will not be denied or marginalized or vilified or gaslighted.
The report, aimed at improving children's health, also discusses issues like ultra-processed foods, fluoride in drinking water, and prescription drug use among children. Critics argue the document does not clearly lay out how the government will implement its recommendations. Live to Santa Fe, New Mexico now, the first state in the country to offer universal childcare, and it's rolling out November 1st. Now, under the initiative, families will be eligible for free childcare for infants and toddlers. There are no minimum income requirements or caps, and also no copay to participate. This is expected to save families in New Mexico over $12 grand per child annually. Scary new details about a Delta Airlines flight from Salt Lake City to Amsterdam in July. A new National Transportation Safety Board report shows severe turbulence threw passengers into the ceiling and back onto the floor. This lasted 2.5 minutes. Radar imagery shows the flight path entering a severe storm area, and the seatbelt sign was off. Now, the flight diverted to Minneapolis, where 18 people were then hospitalized. This investigation is ongoing. The jury is now in place for the trial of the man accused of trying to assassinate President Trump in Florida. A lot of the jurors admitted they knew about the case from the news, but said they could still be objective. Routh is accused of trying to assassinate Trump last September. He's pleading not guilty to 5 charges and is representing himself. Opening statements begin tomorrow. Russian drones violating NATO airspace, triggering Allied air defenses. Coming up, why Polish leaders believe it was no accident. Then a sign of inflation could be turning around. Plus, the new investigation sparked by the recent jobs report revision. Also on the way, 2 Meta whistleblowers sharing bombshell testimony on Capitol Hill, how they say the tech giant manipulated research to hide certain harms to children. We'll be right back. Here we go. The words written by President Donald Trump on his Truth Social after asking, what's with Russia violating Poland's airspace? Well, a civilian home damaged as Russian drones shot down by the Polish Air Force in the city of Wyroki, Poland, that borders on Ukraine. According to Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk, 19 incursions, happened as the NATO Air Force scrambled their jets. And as a NATO alliance member, if Poland says they were attacked by Russia, Article 5 will be invoked for all NATO members as if they were themselves attacked. National correspondent Atra El-Nashar in Washington covering the latest.
Russian aggression crossing Ukraine's borders into Poland Tuesday night.
In all likelihood, we're facing a large-scale provocation.
Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk says 19 violations of Polish airspace by Russian drones were recorded over 7 hours. For the first time in NATO's history, alliance fighters engaged with an enemy target in NATO airspace.
Our air defenses were activated and successfully ensured the defense of NATO territory. This included Polish F-16s, Dutch F-35s, Italian AWACS, NATO multi-role tanker transport and German Patriots.
Tusk telling Polish parliament while they're not in a state of war, it's the closest they've come to conflict since World War II, formally invoking NATO's Article 4, which calls allies to consult together whenever, in the opinion of any of them, the territorial integrity, political independence, or security of any of the parties is threatened. Russia was launching hundreds of drone attacks on Ukraine at the time, and its military says it had no planned Polish targets.
There were 19 breaches, and it simply defies imagination that could be accidental.
Here in Washington, President Trump's first public reaction to the situation came mid-morning Wednesday. What's with Russia violating Poland's airspace with drones? Here we go. Many, including some Republicans on Capitol Hill, renewing calls for Trump to finally make good on threats to punish Russia with tougher economic measures, including sanctions on countries buying Russian oil. Ukraine's foreign affairs minister says Russian drones flying into Poland during the massive attack on Ukraine show that Putin's sense of impunity keeps growing because he was not properly punished for his previous crimes. Before the Russian drone incursion, President Trump said European leaders would come here to the U.S. this week to discuss the war in Ukraine and that he would speak to Russian President Vladimir Putin soon. No specific plans for either have been announced. In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nashar for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
The Labor Department is now investigating the Bureau of Labor Statistics, particularly the agency's collecting and reporting of closely watched economic data. Today, the department's Assistant Inspector General for Audit wrote a letter to the acting BLS commissioner. It follows yesterday's large downward revision of the jobs numbers by the BLS. Well, wholesale prices are down slightly as of August. New government data shows the producer price index dropped 0.1% after a downwardly revised 0.7% uptick in July. The PPI measures cost of goods and services for retailers. Today's report should give the Federal Reserve some room to breathe for the possible interest rate cut this month. The Trump administration expected to appeal a federal judge decision to keep Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook on the job for now. A Biden-appointed judge has temporarily blocked the White House from removing Cook while she challenges her firing. Cook is currently under federal criminal investigation for mortgage fraud, accused of claiming multiple properties as her primary residence in order to get better terms for home loans. But the president is one step closer to getting an ally on the Federal Reserve's Board of Governors. The Senate Banking Committee advances the nomination of White House economic advisor Stephen Meehan to the full Senate. His nomination is getting pushback from Democratic lawmakers, while Republicans note he's filling a short-term vacancy.
Dr. Meehan's nomination is just the next phase of President Trump's very public, months-long campaign to stack the Fed with loyalists.
Dr. Meehan brings deep experience, proven leadership, and a clear commitment to ensuring that the American economy remains strong and competitive.
And Meehan was tapped to replace Adriana Kugler, who resigned in August. If approved by the Senate, he would serve until the end of her term, which expires January 31st, and could meet with the board when the Fed is scheduled to meet next week to decide on federal interest rates. Former Vice President Kamala Harris calls Biden's decision to run for re-election recklessness, despite touting his ability to run at the time. Harris making the statement in a newly released excerpt from her forthcoming memoir called 107 Days. In that same excerpt, she goes on to say, quote, "This wasn't a choice that should have been left to an individual's ego and individual's ambition." She also pushed back on the narrative that the Biden White House tried to hide Biden's declining health from the public, saying he just got tired. The House Oversight Committee is forging ahead with its investigation into the former president, Joe Biden's inner circle, as it looks into whether they hid his alleged mental decline from the public, among other things like his use of an auto pen. This Friday, former Biden White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre is expected to testify, and Chief of Staff Jeff Zients will likely testify next week. Well, the United Nations Security Council is holding an emergency meeting to discuss the Israel strike in Doha, targeting the political leaders of Hamas who reside in Qatar's capital. Qatar's prime minister is calling for a regional response against Israel for their, quote, barbaric attack.
Does the world need a clearer message than this? Who is closing the door to peace? Does the international community need a clearer message than this of who the bully in the region is?
Israel is now expressing some doubt that the strike was successful. There is no clear indication the Hamas leaders were killed or not. We have reporters all across the country and your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. And we are taking the pulse of America.
Michael Shimankinda is a pastor at Restoration Church of Maine in South Portland.
But he spent 2 weeks in New Hampshire in federal ICE custody. And he says he got through that tough time by leaning on the Word of God.
I think I really came to experience the love of God at another dimension that I've never did before.
Shimon Kinda was taken into custody on August 13th. He was released 16 days later. An ICE spokesperson told us Shimon Kinda overstayed his visa by 9 years. Shimon Kinda came to the U.S. in 2016 on a tourist visa from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. But he says he applied for asylum when his visa was still active, and that asylum has been pending ever since. I've reached out to ICE again to confirm this, but they haven't gotten back to me.
From the skies to the screens.
We're constantly training, getting them used to the controls, flying the drone around.
Fresno County Sheriff's deputies are evolving with ever-changing technology.
Maybe we're looking for that person that's hiding under a tree, under bushes, things like that. Their heat signature does appear even onto the drone without being able to see the person.
The drone gives a 360-degree visual. It's faster, safer, and less expensive than a helicopter.
From the database cloud to the patrol on the ground, the platform provides real-time information even before first responders arrive.
Coming up, Meta is accused of covering up how its platforms could harm kids. The troubling testimony right after this. Payments have begun by Meta's Facebook in the $725 million data privacy class action settlement. Facebook faced multiple lawsuits claiming they did not protect user data from third-party access without permission. Eligible Facebook users between May 2007 and December 2022 will get some part of the payout as long as they filed a claim by August 2023. This comes as a Senate Judiciary hearing examined whistleblower allegations that Meta buried child safety research after multiple current and former employees came forward accusing the tech giant of covering up potential harm to children. The National News Desk, Jeff Harris reports.
The 6 whistleblowers are accusing Meta of deleting or changing internal safety research that showed children were exposed to grooming and sexual harassment on virtual reality platforms. 2 of those whistleblowers facing lawmakers on Tuesday. Testifying before a Senate Judiciary Subcommittee, 2 former Meta researchers, Jason Sadazan and Case Savage, accusing the tech giant of suppressing internal research on child safety.
I am here today because it is evident that Meta consistently chooses profit over safety.
Meta has failed to prioritize child safety until they are scrutinized by outside regulators.
First reported by the Washington Post, Sadazan and Savage, along with the other whistleblowers, disclosing their findings to Congress, which claim Meta manipulated virtual reality research that showed children were exposed to grooming, sexual harassment, and violence.
Where you can hear people sexually pleasuring themselves transmitted over audio.
Republican Senator Josh Hawley circling back to 2024 testimony from Mark Zuckerberg, where the Meta CEO said he doesn't want users under 13 years old on the platform.
They're rampant on the platform, and Meta is specifically targeting them. Isn't that your testimony?
Yes, that's correct.
Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar also asking a series of rapid-fire questions, including, did Meta stop research projects into child safety because it didn't want to know the results? Plus,
did Meta require researchers to delete data that showed harm to kids that was occurring on its platforms?
Yes.
A Meta spokesperson telling The Guardian the company has approved 180 studies since 2022 related to its VR reality labs, including youth safety and well-being, adding, these few examples are being stitched together to fit a predetermined and false narrative. Now, in addition to testifying on Capitol Hill, the whistleblowers have filed a detailed disclosure not only to Congress, but also to the Securities and Exchange and Federal Trade Commissions. I'm Jeff Harris reporting from Washington.
Coming up, the Conjuring house will be auctioned off. The celebrity who some say might purchase it right after this. This Halloween, the property made famous by the movie The Conjuring will be up for auction. The paranormal researcher who first investigated the home says he was surprised yet pleased to hear this.
I would like to see it be popularized but not exploited, but one tends to go with the other.
One person he says could be a potential owner is comedian Matt Routh. He and a partner actually bought another property related to the film. Now, we do want to finish with a live look at the White House, where flags have been lowered in honor of political activist Charlie Kirk. Stay with us tonight for the very latest on that investigation. I'm Taylor Murray. Thanks for watching.